Welcome to SwitchCorner, my name is Alex, and today we're going to be taking a look at River City Girls Zero on the Nintendo Switch, and it's actually a repackaged variation of a release from 1994 that never did see an English translation. Well, hit subscribe, join us here on SwitchCorner for reviews and deals weekly, and let's get started. It's a story, and it's actually pretty dialogue heavy, this one, with constant plot points explaining what is happening, what you've uncovered, and where you need to go next. Also, the overall theme, I'd call it actually quite an adult story. The idea of those series leads Kunio and Ricky opening the game. They are imprisoned, framed for an attacker hit and run that you did not commit. Now, being a River City entry, your solution: escape and beat the truth out of everyone you see, and understand not only why you were framed, but by who. Then the River City Girls name attached, you might be asking, but why? Well, honestly, look, it's mainly marketing, building off the success of River City Girls on the Nintendo Switch, but this was actually their first ever appearance as playable characters. It was in fact Kyoko's first appearance ever, but Masako had been in a few entries, though never as a girlfriend. Regarding this re-release then and new content for the story, there's very little outside of an opening, a cinematic which looks fantastic, a new comic book style intro which is kind of tongue-in-cheek as they talk about finding the game, its history and the lack of translation, and then a closing sequence just kind of around the experience. They add very little, but I still enjoyed them. Gameplay then, and this was a Famicom release, and that's immediately apparent in its control scheme. That is not a problem, and I would consider it a trait of the genre, but it is very simple, think a kick, punch, jump, back attack, guard, and then the ability to switch between our 4 team members as we do quickly unlock them and add them to our roster. On top of this, then, you can combine attacks, think a jumping kick, stomping on those enemies on the ground, or unleashing a special attack simply by pressing block on one of the inputs. Ricky, for example, a Chun-Li style attack is my favourite. Kunio has a spin kick. It's a fun kind of moveset having these specials to utilise, but getting them to kind of land on your enemies, that will definitely take practice. I think the main reason for this, and this actually goes for all attacks, not just specials, but the hitboxes, they're relatively small, and frustration may occur initially as you kind of figure out that optimal distance. It's not particularly a problem, just smaller than I anticipated going in, and it led to a fair few misses on my part, and also an overuse of flying kicks so I could deliver a stomp down. Levels then do have some nice variety as well, asking for not only laying a smackdown on your enemies, but it can change. Some moments you can move up and down on the screen, others it's purely left to right. Then there's even some minor platforming in the sense of maybe you'll be climbing a Ferris wheel at the theme park or traversing a warehouse full of boxes. Small, but it adds some variety, and I particularly enjoyed a couple of motorbike experiences. These sequences, you need to kind of navigate the roads and attack enemies on either side. There's not honestly a huge amount else to it. You'll find single player and 2-player co-op local, which will for sure help those that maybe struggle with its challenge. And yeah, actually on that note, I wish it had difficulty options. This is not an easy game at all. You should breeze through maybe the first few levels relatively easily, but after that it definitely brings on the challenge in full force. For me though, it took around 3 to 3.5 hours to complete, a fair few deaths in there as well for that first full run, and one frustration: you can save at any point, but the checkpoint system can be a little bit kind of random, and sometimes it would require multiple fights over and over. You see, if one character in your team of 4 dies, that is game over, so even if the other 3, let's say, have full health bars, that's going to be the game over. So just kind of monitor that closely and kind of be aware of what is happening and switch to that next character before they go to 0 health. Otherwise though, look, it's aged. That is not a question, and it's not going to be for everyone because of that. In fact, I wouldn't recommend this necessarily if you simply enjoyed the incredible River City Girls. This is going to be more for those genre enthusiasts out there that want to experience a small piece of history that never did see a release. So graphics, and let's talk enhancements first of all. The game has 4 resolution options. Stretch, not a fan personally, it makes things widescreen and it feels and looks honestly wrong. Characters and locations are almost warped. Native is a tiny screen, native 2x, zoomed in just a little bit more of course. And then finally, my preference, that is full screen, while keeping the correct format and what you are seeing in the footage today. These options then are accompanied by 2 incredibly lazy borders. It's basically more marketing for limited run games than anything else. Neon, or what it calls retro, which basically equates to 3 stripes on either side. I think given the great modernized River City Girls artwork that opens and closes the game, that would have probably been like a little bit more enjoyable. In game then, they've done a great job with bringing us a true Famicom experience here. Now sure, it's very much a style of the time, but it's a crisp image, and the sprites and the animations are particularly impressive. There's this great roller coaster sequence, for example, as well. It's not really playable as such, but watching that sequence, I feel like this game at its time, it was kind of like peak output on the hardware it was running on. Menus then finally, they're simple enough with a quick access option via the right trigger to your options, and then the main menu itself, it's been modernized with new artwork that reflects the more modern rendition of these characters, but from what I understand it's actually based on the original artwork for the game. The black and white new intro then and outro, they look great as well. Audio finally then, and I mean it's a game from the 90s, so it's simple stuff. Sound effects are kicks, punches, with some slight variance by character. We get an electronic effect for dialogue exchanges, a few kind of bike sounds here and there, but the real highlight it is the music, chiptune, and for the most part the original soundtrack, though they have added in a few new tracks as well to kind of fill things out as stated on the eShop listing. Now I presume these new tracks, that's going to be to accompany the main menu, but also the new intro and outro, though I can't 100% guarantee that. So the final verdict, and River City Girls 0, honestly, it's a bit of a cheeky tie into our leads here to help those sales numbers. I mean, just being kind of honest there. That said though, it also makes sense. It's their first appearance as playable characters in the series, and it's still a small piece of gaming history that absolutely deserved an English translation so fans could enjoy it. That said though, again, I'm going to repeat this, I would not necessarily recommend this if you're just a fan of the modernised River City Girls game, but rather it's for those fans of 90s style beat-em-ups, because that's exactly what it is. And the story here, sure they are in it, but it's really Kunio and Ricky's tale altogether. Also know then it's extremely tough towards the end game, and those hitboxes and even what I would call a slower movement by modern standards in game, it won't be for everyone. Now if you watch the channel though, you no doubt know I love this style of gameplay, so I'm definitely going to be in that target audience. The only other thing I would maybe change, a few more accessibility options and less lazy limited run games plugins in the form of those borders. That would have gone a long way. In the end though, it achieves what it sets out to, and I cannot argue with that. A good 7 out of 10 from me today, then a time capsule I'm definitely happy to see. Will you be adding this one to the library then, or are you holding onto that cash? A shout out then to the patrons of the channel who are going above and beyond to support SwitchCorner. It helps more than you know, so thank you all so much. Then hit subscribe if you love the Switch, as much as we will do here. Join our growing family, and I'll see you all on the next video. Thanks everyone.